Okay, okay, okay. All right. Think I got this bad boy working. All right. Oh, okay, I think so. All right. So, play a little during the Super Bowl. Looks like I got all my quests done. So there's not a ton we got to worry about tonight. I'm just kind of in the middle of the pack for my tag team arena. I did not feel like pushing for silver four. So I'm just gonna leave it. I think I want to rebuild my teams this week, um, if I have time. I got my keys in, got my Doom Tower, most of it done. I just have some silver keys to use. I'm not worrying too much about Classic Arena until reset at least. Tomorrow's a big arena day for trying to finish up the Classic Arena tournament. I don't love this team. My Rat King just dies way too easily, and I don't have a proper reviver in that team, so I don't like that. He's not protected enough. So I'm gonna have to rework that team. Um, so what I really need to do is I've almost finished up my Fire Knight tournament. Just trying to get the rare for the what's her name? Owella for the fusion. I think I'm pretty close here. I really hate how slow these load. Okay, so I need another 421 points, no big deal. That's about four four refreshes for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pull one void shard. So what I need to do actually, I need to get my RSL helper up so that it will track my shards. That's all I use my RSL helper for, is to make sure that I know when I'm going to be at Mercy. So I just started using this first time a couple days ago. That's going to take a few minutes. So while that loads, I'm going to go ahead and pull. I've got enough for one. And if things go wrong, there's the chance for a second one, but looks like I'm a little bit short. How do we do here? And it's a worthless rare. Steel Bowyer. So that did not go great. And I'm not getting any more of those. So guess I'm going to have to wait for tomorrow to see if I can get another Mortal Soul Stone. It's not the end of the world. I don't think there's anything I'm too excited about here. Like, I wouldn't hate to have Soul for Sil, but I'm not going to stress that one either. So let's see, is my RSL helper up yet? Just a second. We'll get that up. See if I can pull my... Come on. RSL helper does take a long time for me to load, personally. Could just be my computer. I don't have the world's greatest computer. Okay, so I'm not sure why it's half on the other screen. Are you going to load my information? Don't tell me you lost my information. Do I have to, like... What's going on? Do I have to wait for it to load through some things before it'll work? Okay, it was tracking my shards when I pulled them the other day. Maybe I have to get things running a little bit. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to see if I can get any good gear here. I want boots. And I want accuracy. See if I can pull anything decent here. I got a shield I don't want. Weapon I don't want. No luck so far. Nope. Okay. I tried. All right. Are you awake yet? Okay. Okay. Clearly, I have a lot to learn about RSL Helper and why it did not keep track of my shards pulled from the other day. All right. Well, I guess I'm just gonna run Fire Knight and see if that wakes up my RSL helper. I do not have the greatest Fire Knight team in the world. I tried to rebuild it a little bit today for I was losing a little too often. Not a lot, but I didn't like it. I think that this team is doing a little bit better at surviving. Like I was probably winning 90 to 95% of my runs, but really you want that to be 100, and if not 100, then 99. Like my spider team, I don't think it ever loses, and it's super fast. My Fire Knight team stinks, but every speed team, I'm missing like one champion. I can't do the Poison Explosion team because I don't have Tomb Lord. So my team keeps dying. Like I can do the Poison Explosions for the first 2 rounds, but I can't survive the boss. And I don't have a Seer, so I can't do a Seer speed run. And I don't have a Hulse Ring, so I'm kind of just left with a team that does the job pretty much, but it takes somewhere between 4 and 5 minutes most of the time, which is pretty darn slow. like frustratingly slow. So it takes me all day, what it takes probably some players, a couple hours to get through. That's why the only dungeon team that of mine that I really like is my spider team. And there are faster spider teams, but it's about a 50-second team, give or take. Don't die on screen arbiter. Come on. Okay, there we go. So we survived. Oh my goodness. This this is a little embarrassing. You can't be doing this. Like I ran this team like 20 times a day probably, and I hadn't died. But that was really close. That was really close. These warlords hit kind of hard if you don't control them well enough. So I'm kind of stuck on my Fire Knight teams because either I can get through the waves really fast or I can get through the boss pretty fast, at least relatively fast. But I can't seem to do both. I can build for one but not the other right now. And I just haven't figured out a team that really works for me very well. Like I tried to do Poison Explosion with Dark Kale, which is fine, but I don't have the Tomb Lord. So I can't really do that. Like I have a Lonoril, so I can explode Dark Kale's poisons. But when I get to the boss, I either die or it goes way too slow. So it's like even if I can get through the waves in 2 minutes instead of three, I can't get through the boss so fast. Or like this team, the waves aren't so fast, but the boss is less of a threat because of the cold heart, knocking back some extra turn meter. So I don't love it, but it's kind of what I'm stuck with right now. Okay, let's check on RSL Helper. What is going on here? Okay, I don't know why it's showing Gnarlhorn at all. What do I use Gnarlhorn for? Oh, those some of the enemies in this run. Okay, whatever. Okay, so I don't know why it's not keeping track of my shards from before. Am I supposed to sign in to RSL Helper? Okay, so what happens if I don't know. I don't think it does anything. Is it gonna wake you up? Okay, okay. So now it shows that I've gone 22 voids without a legendary and one without an epic, right? Okay, so let's pull it. I got one void shard, not much of a dream. Like, it's not gonna happen, but let's go. And it's blue, never mind. Whatever. Got a 3-star chicken called Steadfast Marshall. Okay. I tried. So now, okay, yeah, all right. So it just took me a little bit of time to wake them up, but it worked. Okay. As long as it worked, I really want to pull just for the heck of it now. Because I pulled 29 void shards this weekend. I got one legendary and one epic. The legendary made it all worth it. I got Marishka. But how do you pull 29 void shards on a 2x and get one epic? Like, that's mathematically absurd. Like, you should get about 5. But like I said, I got Marishka, so who cares? Good enough, right? So, my pulls tonight weren't very exciting. Happens. Whatever. Uh, so I just need to run out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and autoplay my Fire Knight. And we're going to go ahead and watch Ash's channel, react to Ash's 50 Raid Shadow Legends tips and tricks. We're going to see how much I agree with at this point in the game. Is he on mute? Okay, I need to probably change my sound settings real quick. Okay, let's see. How about I'll play that there. Okay, is it going to work now? There we go, Ash.
Here today. Send some positive vibes, some love your way, especially if you're going through something. If you need to know that, one of my favorite quotes out there in the world, one of my favorite, I guess, philosopher kings out there in the world is good old Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic king himself. You have the power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength, guys. Just know if you're going through something, as I said, you will get through this. Things will get better. Care about you and send us some love your way today to start off this video. And today's video is going to be an updated 50 tips for 2023 in wrestling. So I went ahead and I added some new tips, some old tips, put them all together. Whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced player who's been playing Raid Shadow Legends for a few years, hopefully you pick up something from today's video. Let's start with the real basics. We're going to get this easy one out of the way with out the gate here, and that is the starting champions. I still think that Kale is the best starting champion to go with in the early game of Raid Shadow Legends. Kale is the best starter.
In my opinion, starter champions are way overrated. If you can get anybody decent early on, I don't even know if taking Kale to level 60 is all that important. Especially if you sign up for this game at the right time. Like if people just got Rhonda, I don't think I would do anything with Kale. I don't even have a Kale on my account. I started with Elhain, and I used her for way too long because I didn't really know what I was doing. But I haven't touched my Elhain other than I really need to build her now for some of the Doom Tower secret rooms. But I don't even have a Kale on my account, I don't think. I built to 50 and then I just fed it as a chicken when I needed it. I never used Aethel. I never used Gaelic at all. Uh, you know, I understand why people build them, but they become obsolete so fast if you can get any decent champion. So I would probably start with Kale, just for the poisons. He's probably going to talk about that. But honestly, who cares? Like like if you've already played the game, you probably aren't that excited about Kale. Like when I first started playing and I picked Elhain and then I realized everybody else had Kale, I was so mad that I didn't have Kale because I always got stomped in everything. But, you know, they really are just a starter champion. And after that, they're really only good for a few secret rooms in the late game. And other than that, you don't use them. You don't use rares in this game other than Cold Heart right there. And maybe a couple others, but really you just don't use rares unless Clarion tells you you have to use a rare in order to get this reward. All right, so looks like this run did a little bit better than my last run, so that's good, but RNG, whatever.
Because he has poisons. Poisons are instrumental.
Poisons, poisons, poisons.
Dragon as well, and I'll help you out. The big version on his A3, the small version on his A1. It is a great campaign farmer with a turn meter
Nothing
on
there.
his A2. All of the campaign starters have an increased ally HP in all battles, which you're going to want to probably be using them early on as your aura lead. So I think still Kale is still the best. However, Elhain and April, personally, I really like them in the mid to the end game. So you really can't go wrong with either of those three champions. Collect, he's kind of another story, but he's not an awful champion. I think we're making progress. Number two is going to be, we're going to kind of scale up the difficulty here as we get to these tips. Number two is another basic one, but a lot of new players don't realize this. And that is if you go over a campaign, no matter which difficulty level you're on, normal, hard, brutal, or nightmare, level three, stage three is going to give you more silver. That's for a simple reason. On any single level, any single stage, if you're going to be farming in campaign, shields in this game sell for a little bit more silver than other artifacts. So, best bang for your buck in terms of silver while you're campaign farming is to farm stage 12-3 for experience and HP. If you can't get 12-3 up.
If you have any idea what you're doing in this game, you're going to get to stage 12-3 on Brutal pretty quickly. Like, a lot of the people who are doing the free to play challenge, like, I think somebody got it on like the first or second day. Like, I think if you know what you're doing, it might take you a week. If you don't know what you're doing, maybe it'll take a couple weeks if you're not spending that much time on it. But this advice is true, but it doesn't super duper matter. Just get the Brutal 12-3. Don't even worry about Nightmare. Nightmare doesn't matter on campaign. Like, when you get good champions, you will be able to do Nightmare and you'll get some rewards. But I beat Nightmare campaign probably, I don't even know, 6 to 12 months ago, and then just never even touched it. Just do Brutal 12-3 if you can.
Brutal, then do 12-3 normal, do 12-3 hard until you can get to 12-3 fatal. That's going to be the best bang for your buck in terms of experience and in terms of getting the best silver, maximizing your silver. Tip number three, guys, is going to be speed and accuracy are king in Raid Shadow Legends. Now, a lot of players don't really recognize this in the very beginning of Raid Shadow Legends, but even those starter champions that we talked about, let's just pick a random rare champion here as kind of an example. Let's go with Coldheart, right? So Coldheart, fantastic champion. She's got this A3.
To clarify, accuracy only matters if you need accuracy. And speed matters less for certain champions than others. You're going to need some speed on any champion, but in the late game, like in a late game arena, you're going to have your nuker pretty slow, like shockingly slow if you're a platinum player. Like some of the top players, they have their nuker at like 140 speed, maybe even slower. So yeah, speed is super important, especially in like dungeons and any PvE content. Other than that, like arena, at first it really matters. It just depends on the part of the game you're in. But yes, speed matters 95% of the time. Accuracy only matters if you're trying to land some kind of debuff.
Free ability where she's decreasing target turn by 100%. A lot of players don't realize whether or not, even though we're not landing a debuff per se here, we're still manipulating the target's turn meter. Whenever we're doing something to the opponent other than damage, essentially, we need accuracy. So the best place to get your accuracy is probably going to be from the banner once you fully 6-star ascend these champions. So you can see I have an accuracy banner on this Coldheart. So accuracy and speed are going to be super, super important. Make sure you're nailing speed on your boots and accuracy on your banner, especially in the early game of Raid Shadow Legends. After that, you'll know enough where more versatility will open up in terms of where you want to get that. you look at some maybe unorthodox builds with attack percentage, defense percentage on the boots and stuff like that. But for the beginning and the intermediate kind of, first year or so, race adolescence, you pretty much want to be looking for speed on your boots and accuracy on your band.
Okay, I actually used a lot of Ash videos early when I was playing the game. I still watch him every day. Something that really confused me when I was a brand new player is he would always talk about speed boots, and I thought he was talking about uh, the type of, you know, like there's a speed set. Not everything has to be the speed set to be speed boots, but he's talking about having boots with the speed main stat. So that confused me for a long time. Is you can also have speed as a substat, and I didn't know what was what. So I was, you know, you're not going to get a whole lot of speed set boots with speed as the main stat. Like I've been playing the game for a year and a half, and I don't even know how many speed set speed boots I have, like 10 or something. Like it's really hard to get a good set of speed boots. But I've got a whole bunch of speed boots, and I'll show you in a second here. I'll probably go to that when my run is done here and show you the difference. But some of the terms, if you have never played the game before, he some of the content creators will throw so much information at you that you don't even know what they're talking about. And it's a little hard to follow because there's speed set, just like there's crit rate set, and that's different than main stat and it's different than substat, and that confused me for way longer than I'd like to admit.
Okay, in speed and accuracy, what artifact set has both speed and accuracy? It just goes to show you the value of perception sets.
Perception is the most valuable set in the game that anyone can acquire. Like I don't know why he has so much. Maybe he already pulled all the uh, top level perception, but I have so much perception gear on my account, like an absurd amount, because it's useful for so many champions. Anybody that you want to have fast, that you want to also debuff somebody with, you can at least use 2 pieces of it, if not 6. Like a lot of my top champions have 6 pieces of perception that I don't even have enough, even though I'll pull it every day. I'll pull for perception set if possible. But there are so many champions that need it. Like I use perception, I think, on my Kymar, probably my Mithrala, my Lydia, uh, my Warlord. Just everybody needs perception. Not everybody, like your damage dealers don't need perception, but so many champions can use perception. It's hard to get enough of it, and it's really one of the best things that uh, are in the game for getting accuracy and speed both. Like it makes the accuracy set almost worthless unless you get some great stats on some accuracy pieces.
You get 40 accuracy and 5% speed. We'll talk more on that later. Tip number 4 is going to be farming stages in dungeons. Okay, there's 2 big thresholds that I want to talk about here, and it applies to every dungeon. We're just going to look at Dragon's Lair to kind of start. So, farming dungeon 13 should be your first kind of goal. Getting to the dungeon.
Okay, so let me show you this. Let's go close everything up. I'm going to go to equipped and perception. All my perception gear. Get all those perception pieces. Can scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll. Like I've got 1,089 pieces of gear total in my account currently. And let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 33. So that's about 200 pieces of perception. That's almost 20% of my all my gear is perception. Now I was talking earlier about speed boots. Okay, I've got 113 boots with speed main stat right here. Okay, I have a little bit more. I've got 14 speed boots in a speed set. So, and some of this isn't even that good. Like, my Reliquary Tinder has a rare 5-star just because it's so hard to get speed boots in this game. And it's even harder to get them with stats that make any sense. So, as you can see, I've actually got them on some of my best champions. I got them, of course, on my Arbiter, also on my Morgaine, uh, Elenaril, Godseeker Aniri, got her on Lysandra. So, they're super important, but they're super hard to get good sets of. Okay, so let's see if we're any closer. Let's see how close we are on our Fire Knight. I think I'm going to have to do maybe 3 more resets. Really sick of doing Fire Knight already today. I don't think I've gotten one piece of Savage all day. So I need another 278. So I'll probably get that with 3 more refills. So I could just be patient and wait till tomorrow, but I just like getting these things done. Okay, so we can do 3 more runs and we'll keep watching Ash.
Level 13 stays 13 on any dungeon level. Why? Because 13 and above, 13 and above, you're going to have a shot at getting 6-star gear, okay? 6-star gear is going to be fantastic. It's going to give you a big upgrade on all of your champions. So the first order of business in terms of dungeon farming, in terms of artifacts in this game that are available in dungeons, is to get to stage 13 to get that 6-star gear. Now the other one, this is tip number 5, is farming stage 16 plus should be your next goal because at 16 all the way to level 25 in any dungeon, you are no longer going to get a chance of getting mystery shards or brews, XP brews to use in the tavern. Now, why don't you want mystery shards and XP brews? Because they're taking the place of what would be a solid artifact otherwise. So you don't have to worry about those kind of, I don't know, crappy filler rewards when you get to stage 16 and beyond. So after 13, 16 should be your next goal. Tip number 6 is going to be rotation. We have a whole video about all the ways that rotation matters in Raid Shadow Legends, but just a quick few ones for you guys in case you weren't aware. I don't want to burn gems on a key right now. Let's go ahead and keep things simple here. Let's go to stage 3 where we get the best bang for our buck on these shields. This is position number 1 here in the leader, right? Number 2 is up here. Number 3 is over here. Number 4 is over there. That is the position, okay? Now, position doesn't matter for, who goes next, for example, because it's going to predicate on the speed of the champions, obviously, on your team. But it does matter for other stuff, such as ally attack. It's going to go, each ally on an ally attack ability is going to be joining that attack in order of where they are on said, turn rotation order. So, for example, if I have a champion like, I don't know, Ray, for example, right? Ray is a legendary champion who, on her A1 ability, which is what they're going to be using on their auto attack, she has an awesome ability that places decreased defense. So, why do I mention all of this? There she goes. So, let's just pretend I had an ally attack champion here in the first spot. Number two, or first one to go, is going to be Ray. AoE attack, decreased defense. Now, if I had other champions in spot three and spot four, well, who are just doing damage, like a champion like Skullcrown, for example, right? It's going to be great to have Ray positioned ahead of her so we can land that decreased defense first, and then we'll have the whole table kind of set for Skullcrown and the other champions we want to use in a blender comp. Now, same thing goes for single target revivers, guys. If we have a reviver, say, in it doesn't really matter what position the actual reviver's in, let's just say that we have Scylla the Drakes as our reviver on this team. Well, she's going to prioritize, let's just say we get hit by an AoE attack and all three of these champions die. She's going to prioritize reviving the champion who is in by position order, you know? So it's going to be Thalia first, it's going to be Eleanor second, and it's going to be Tila third. Now, if we have like two revivers on
Don't build that team. That's garbage.
the team, we probably want to prioritize reviving the other revivers. So in this case, we get Cardinal first, whereas if we had Cardinal way back here, she would not be reviving Cardinal, and we wouldn't have our other reviver kind of ready to go. There's a lot of other ways that turn order affects things inside the game, and again, I'll refer you to that other video where we talk all about rotation and how it affects everything in this game. All right, guys, tip number 7 is the value of damage mitigation passives. They are so freaking good in this team. I'm just going to show you a few of my favorites here. We have Tagore, who's an epic champion from Orcs. He has a passive, decrease the damage allies receive by 50% or less by 10%. These are great. It's kind of like a built-in, straight-out, raw damage mitigator. That really adds up, especially when you stack them with other buffs such as strengthen, such as increased defense, okay? Probably the most famous one is going to be Lydia, but there's a bunch of them in the game. They keep adding more. They just added Pythion as well. So these, be on the lookout for these really strong passives that decrease damage.
He said Lydia, but I'm pretty sure he was talking about Duchess. He had Duchess pulled up.
Taken either from AoE attacks or, you know, a bunch of other factors. Everybody's a little bit different, generally speaking. Thick skin on Norog. If they have one or more buffs, 15% damage mitigation. If they have no buffs, 25% damage mitigation. These abilities are very, very powerful. Tip number 8 is the power of grant and extra turn abilities, guys. So
speed boots, but they're pretty weak.
So grant and extra turn are super powerful. If we go to Ava, one of the starting champions, she has on her A3 gains an extra turn or grants an extra turn, either or. These are great because what it does is it's not only, you know, do you get a turn back to back, but because you're getting an additional turn, you're actually going to be reducing the cooldown of their other skills as well. So let's say we use Divine Blades first, and then the next time we come around, Divine Blades is still on a 2-turn cooldown. We use the extra turn, boom, that turns into a 1-turn cooldown. We could use the A1, then it's going to be free to use the next turn.
This game has done nothing but just confuse me, bro.
That's kind of convoluted. Maybe it's not.
This game is confusing.
That was not the easiest way to describe it. There's a bunch of champions like that in the game, and these champions are inherently super powerful. For such as, again, Deacon Armstrong grants an extra turn now, not gains. Grants an extra turn that's going to allow you to essentially take this from what would be a 3-turn cooldown when you book him to a 2-turn cooldown and keep that decreased defense up more often than not on all enemies. So these granted extra turn abilities, there's a lot of them in the game. Again, they're very powerful. Keep an eye out for those skills. Tip number 9 is the power of A1 cycling. So at the end of a wave here, right before the mobs are about to die, what you want is all of your skills to be off cooldown, especially when you're in a dungeon or a Doom Tower floor that's really challenging, right? So going into every round with a fresh, all of your skills off cooldown is going to really greatly increase your chance of actually making it to the boss or making it through the waves. So once all the enemies are close to dead, we just want to pound away with all of our A1 abilities, our first abilities here, rather than use really valuable abilities such as Seal of Magic right now, or such as Visual Gaze. We want to keep these abilities to use during our next round, during our next wave. So A1 cycle on all of our champions is going to take a few extra turns, but it's going to buy us time so we have a nice clean slate and able to use all of our more valuable and strong skills that are now off cooldown because, again, we were able to cycle all of our A1s until we refreshed on stronger abilities. Tip number 10 is to clear difficult waves or very difficult dungeons, Doom Tower floors, and Raid Shadow Edges. Take advantage of stun sets with Fearsome Presence Mastery. Fearsome Presence is going to take that stun from an 18 to a 23%. Does not require accuracy to land, stuns, or any debuffs from artifact sets, only casting those abilities. So here we go, Secret Room 12. I just made a video on this if you guys want to check out the whole entire strategy. But I do have one champion in a shield set, just in case we do get hit. And then I have the rest of the champions in stun sets with that Fearsome Presence. So you can see stun, stun, stun. Guess what, guys? If they never take a turn, we will not lose. We're already seeing 3 stuns here. We only have 1 enemy who is not stunned. And the idea is we keep doing this because, again, not to belabor the point, but hey, if they never go, we never have to worry about losing. This is a great way to clear any super difficult content inside Raid Shadow Legends. Tip number 11 is going to be essential masteries for a debuffing champion on your team. Eagle Eye is going to give them more accuracy. We already talked about the importance of accuracy. It's not mandatory, but it's really nice to get that plus 50 accuracy. Same thing with pinpoint accuracy, charge focus, and swarm smiter. Now, in addition to that,
Masteries for anybody that need accuracy is so important. Like, one of the best things you can do for your champions is get masteries. And I took forever in this game to get masteries on my champions because it felt like such a waste. Like, it doesn't feel like you get so much from your champions by adding masteries until you get deeper into the game and suddenly an extra 50 accuracy feels like a lot. Like early in the game, you're just not hitting for anything because you don't have any good gear anyway. But yeah, when you're trying to get 800 accuracy on a champion, which I don't have on any champion, but the more that you realize that you need accuracy, the more amazing the masteries turn out to be. So I hardly got any masteries on my champions for a long time. And then the last 6 months, I was trying to get masteries caught up on all my decent champions. No.
we have Arcane Celerity, 30% chance to increase the turn meter by 10% when a debuff cast by this champion is removed or expires. Well, obviously, they're going to be a debuffer, so they're going to inherently benefit really nice over the course of a longer battle from this Arcane Celerity. And then the last one is going to be Master Hexter, the chance at increasing the duration of a debuff.
I will say that if you're using a champion for a limited time and you can get away with not doing their masteries, then those masteries are a waste of time. But if you're using a champion for the long haul or a champion that absolutely needs them, then yeah, get them. Like almost every champion now that I actually use has their masteries.
Well, is incredibly powerful. Granted, it will not affect it.
But if they're just for faction wars and you can get through your faction war without giving them masteries, don't waste your energy on or gems. But really, if you're using gems to get your masteries, you either don't know what you're doing or you're a whale. And I am not a whale, so I do my masteries the hard way. So I don't like to waste my energy on a champion that I'm not going to use to get their masteries. So if you can avoid it, avoid it. Sometimes you watch these guys and they'll put masteries on a champion that you're going to use just because you need, I need 5 champions for my faction wars team. Like, if they're just serving the purpose of being a body, but they're not really doing any damage, they're hardly helping you, if the masteries aren't going to change anything, try to not get your masteries. Like, only get masteries if they really, really need them, not just because someone like Ash, who spends thousands and thousands of dollars on the game, like, he's not going to think twice about putting masteries on champions. I mean, this guy built a team of 5 Mountain Kings just for fun and put masteries on all of them, and he probably doesn't use any of them. He probably doesn't use a single one of those Mountain Kings. Maybe maybe for like a tag team, arena team, for defense or something, but probably not. He probably doesn't use a single one of those. So he doesn't think twice about using masteries. But I do.
The CC debuffs, but still really, really nice. And Sniper, if there's not a 100% chance to land a debuff, Sniper will give you an additional 5% chance of doing so. Again, it will not affect stun, slave, freeze, so it won't work for a stun set. That's where you want to pick up fearsome presence, as we spoke about earlier. Tip number 12 is great buffer masteries. People who are just landing buffs on your allies, helping them to keep alive. You're going to specifically what better example than that? Well, you can see that she has rapid response. It's kind of like the opposite of debuffs with arcane celerity. This one applies to buffs. 30% chance of increasing the turn meter by 10% when a buff cast by this champion is removed or expires. The other one that's really important is lasting gifts. 30% chance to extend the duration of any buff cast by this champion, similar to kind of the inverse of Master Hexer. Those are my favorite buffing masteries to have on any champion. But while we're here, tip number 13 is going to be the best healing masteries. So we want to come in with Steadfast, increase our max HP. A lot of heals are based on the caster's max HP, so generally this is pretty good to pick up anyway. And then we have Light on Hands, that increase the value of heals by 5%. We have Healing Savior, increase the value of heals and shield by 10% if the target has 40% HP or less. And then we go down to Merciful Aid. So again, even a curing set is worth considering for a really, really strong healer, getting that nice increase on all the heals that are otherwise going to be cast. What about nuking mastery? So for an arena nuker, guys, I love starting with Deadly Precision. If you need the crit rate, if you don't, just go with the Attack on Blade, Disciple, and then come down. Definitely grab the Keen Strike for extra crit damage. Come down and pick up the Shield Breaker, and then most importantly, we love Ruthless Ambush, an additional 8% for the first attack on each enemy for the arena. This is going to be real.
Let's see how my Plarium points program is going. Wow, I'm almost halfway to 5 Searsha shards. Not a waste of time at all. Yeah. Let's see if I can use my 5-star epic ore on anything. Why not? All right. So I got 5-star purple. Is there anything with a triple roll? All right. Can I do this one? Nope. Tried that one already. Hey, let's see if I can turn that triple crit damage into triple speed, or if this will be thrown away. Triple resistance? Well, I made a mediocre piece into a worthless piece. Happens. So we got an hour 20 left here. Looks like my defense is holding up. Well, only a couple people have attacked me, and I won a couple battles, so okay. Take care of this guy real quick. How close are we on our fire night?
Really valuable. Opportunist, if you're setting them up with a stun, sleep, fear, any of the CC debuffs, an extra 12% is going to be money for you guys. And then, of course, for arena nukers or against waves, against other champions, not necessarily bosses, Helm Smasher is going to be the best. Going to give you a chance at ignoring defense, and the best artifact set is going to be Savage or Lethal. So tip number 15 is the best tank masteries for building a tank, guys. So we want to pick up either Blast Proof, AoE attacks reduction, damage by 5% for PvE content, or improved parry for PvP content, reduced damage by AoE or by critical hits, excuse me, by 8%. So one of the
This is actually super valuable information that I can't really take in really quick. Like every champion has their own needs, and it's really hard to just follow all the way through when you're not looking at your own champion that you need. So I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit.
very, very strong set.
Best gear.
Usable sets and these sets and really every
The ice golem is trash. I think it has one decent set in it.
dungeon that you can't get utility out. These are just my favorites and generally seen as the strongest in terms of the meta right now at the time of this recording.
Yeah, reflex. Maybe there's one more.
Here in early 2023. Fire Knight Castle has a lot of good.
All right, so he already cut. Okay, I got to back up.
So there's usable sets in these sets, and really every dungeon that can get utility out. These are just my favorites, and generally seen as the strongest in terms of the meta right now at the time of this recording here in early 2023.
Yeah, I think Ice Golem really only has reflex that I'm even interested in. Like, you could use crit rate probably early game, maybe mid game.
Fire Knight, a lot of good stuff.
Fire Knight has a lot of great stuff. I'm getting jack squat. The best time to do any of these dungeon runs is when they have a 2 or 3 times event for good sets. Like last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, they had a Fire Knight tourney where you could get 3 times Savage chance. And I ran Fire Knight for 3 days straight. Like morning, noon, and night, I was running that dungeon, and I got a little bit of gear that I like. It's so hard to get gear in this game that's decent.
Namely, Savage and Regeneration are really, really soft right now. Stun and Shield are really good too, as well as crit damage. And then on Dragon Slayer, Speed is still the best lifesteal in the early game as well. Stalwart is good for clan boss for mitigating damage on AoE attacks. So those are the best kind of artifact sets from traditional dungeons right now in the meta in Raid Shadow Legends. Tip number 17 is you'll see I have a bunch of shards. I have 314 void shards, 7 sacred shards, 3 ancients, but I'm not opening any of them.
Oh, he's about to wail out on those void shards. As soon as there's a good 10 times.
Them because for new players out there, for a 2-time chance. Because it's super important. You only have a 0.5% chance at getting a legendary champion. So bumping that up to 1 might not sound like much, but you really want to save your shards, if at all possible, for 2-time events. Pretty much no matter what. I guess the only exception, guys, would be if you know you're close to your mercy time, or if you keep track of this yourself, and there's a 10-time champion event where you know you're due to pull a legendary because of your own mercy time. Tip number 18, don't know what to farm, don't know what to do, go ahead and take a look at your tournaments, and always use your energy farming a dungeon that has a corresponding tournament if you can. So why not get extra rewards by farming dungeon run?
Never, ever, ever, ever farm a dungeon when you don't have to. Do it during a tournament, do it during a fusion, do it when they've got a 3 times or 2 times gear event, but never do it just because you need something to do. If that hadn't been blue, that would have been decent.
right now, hey, not only can I get all that speed gear that we just spoke about, but I can get an epic skill tome, some chicken, some gems, etc. So look at your tournaments and use that to dictate where you're going to farm and when in terms of the traditional dungeons in Raid Shadow Legends. Tip number 19, guys, is always prioritize your faction wars. Use every single one of your faction keys. I've been a bad boy, and I have 2 left over here, and I will use those in the next 5 hours and 3 minutes. Why? Because of 2 reasons. Glyphs are so important in this game. Glyphs are used to upgrade artifact stats.
I will say, if you're early game, save all your glyphs for later. Because if you're early game, you're going to throw away 95% of the gear that you're keeping now. Because it's going to be trash. Save it for when you need it. Some of your Arbiter missions and later your Ramontu missions are going to ask you to use your glyphs. Sometimes your daily quest will ask you to use your glyphs. Only use them when you have to, especially for the first year of the game, probably. Like until you're getting closer to Arbiter or you have Arbiter, save those glyphs. Like unless you're speed tuning a team or you're just needing a little bit, but don't just use them to use them. Save them if you can.
The substats of artifacts. And if you glyph out every artifact on a champion, it's going to give you a massive difference in terms of their overall strength and their overall stats. So glyphs are not to be ignored, even for beginners players in the game. Even if you can only farm stage, 1 of Demon Spawn Crypt, go ahead and farm that and get your glyphs. Moreover, you'll also be able to farm material to forge more perception gear. And we already spoke about it. Perception is probably the best artifact in the game right now. So make sure you farm again your faction wars every day. Tip number 20, guys, we just kind of alluded to it. Make sure you use all of your keys, okay? I cannot stress this enough, guys. Using your keys, I have 2 left. I want to use 2 battles on stage 3. Why? Because I want 1-star glyphs. 1-star speed glyphs are extremely valuable in this game, even if you're the end game, because oftentimes as you progress in Raid Shadow Legends, you will need to speed tune a team, whether for clan boss or anywhere else. So getting 1 extra speed is actually going to be really important on some artifacts. We don't get a speed glyph that time, but those 1-star glyphs actually can really help you. So do not ignore the earlier stages of faction wars. Tip number 21, this should be super obvious, guys, but always prioritize clan boss, the old school demon lord clan boss. This is really the only way in this game to actually farm, I say that in quotations because it's RNG involved, legendary skill tomes.
The clan boss is the one thing you should do every day. If you do nothing else, if you're not somebody who wants to play this game hours and hours and hours every day, or you have like a really busy day ahead and you just want to skip a day, still show up and do your clan boss keys. At least get, the top chests that you can, because that is how you're going to get shards and it's how you're going to get books. It does drop some other stuff that can be usable. Like it'll give you some gear that is sometimes okay. It will give you these other things like silver, not very much. It will give you gems, not a lot. But get your shards and get your books. So do your clan boss. Focus on getting a good clan boss team, even above getting a good arena team. It's not that important to have a great arena team unless you're trying to unless you're trying to get top plat arena or something. It's really not that important. Like my arena team is not amazing. It just works fine for farming. Get a team that will farm it. I mean, there are people that are doing free to play and within like a couple weeks they were able to get to gold 5. It's so easy now to get to gold 5. It took me probably a year to get to gold 5. It took me like 6 months just to get into gold, and then they finally fixed arena, and I got from gold 1 to gold 5 in like a day because they fixed it. And then people just set single champion defenses and you blast through them, and you only fight the easy teams that you think you're gonna beat, and it's easy. Um, and then you just farm. You don't have to have a great team to farm. Just find the weaker teams that you know you're gonna be able to beat, farm them, and then don't worry about it unless you're a Kraken who's trying to go for Plat Arena. And if you're watching this, that's probably not you.
Sacred shards, void shards, basically the stuff that is the most difficult to get inside this game. So eventually you want to be able to put ultra to it every single day. That's also important to find a clan that is basically working on the same, beating, destroying the same level of difficulty that you are on, that you're targeting on your progression on your account. Find a clan that's kind of around the same I guess, trajectory as you are as a player in Raid Shadow Legends. Tip number 22, guys, is the first three champions that you should be maxing. First, start out with your starter. So every new account, as I mentioned, my favorite is Kale, but whether it's Kale, Lilette, April, or Alhain, you want to go with your starter. After that, you want to go to the campaign, and you want to pick up one of the best campaign farmable champions in the game from stage 9. The Dreadlands is none other than Warmade. She's one of the best debuffers you have access to inside the early game. She's going to help you all the way to the end game. She's the big version of decreased defense.
When he says that she's going to help you into the end game, he's just talking about secret rooms in the Doom Tower. You're not going to be using her to get through any hard content besides that. You're not going to be using her on the clan boss. You're not going to be using her on Hydra or anything like that. You're going to use her maybe for faction wars. Like if you don't happen to pull another decreased defense champion for barbarians, but other than that, you're not going to use her as much as he's implying here. Because I built her and I think I use her sometimes for my faction wars because they'll say use a rare champion. And I do need to build my rares for those Doom Tower secret rooms. I do. But that's what he's talking about when he says it's end game. But it's only end game if you're worried about doing those secret rooms once every 3 months, using it for one room to get 3 shards toward a champion that's probably not very good after you get certain champions. Like a lot of the Doom Tower champions stink. There's probably 3 or 4 decent ones. A couple of them on the normal side, a couple of them on the hard side, but a lot of them stink. So don't worry too much about getting your War Maiden. Like if you have another epic or legendary champion that's good, focus on them, not War Maiden. You build a War Maiden when you got nothing else to do.
Decreased defense is like defense through offense, right? You make the other team take so much more damage with this AoE decreased defense. You definitely want to use your rare books and book it all up to with confidence. You will not regret investing in War Maiden. Champion number 3 is going to be a champion you get for free after just playing the game for 30 days, and that is going to be High Katoon. She's very, very good. A good.
Don't build High Katoon if you get an apothecary. And if you do build High Katoon, you can probably use her at 40. You can definitely use her at 50. I built her to 60, and I don't use her for anything. I'm she might be in my barbarian team, but I don't think she's even in that. If you get apothecary before you get High Katoon, and you can get apothecary a rare card, if you can get him even in mystery shards, build him instead. He's 10 times the champion and a lot easier to build. Let's see. Not wonderful. Okay. Let's So I think I'm very close to being done with this tournament. Really hope so.
Speed champion, and she is a where is she? She's an epic champion as well. So it will kind of help you with diversifying the resources that it takes to upgrade a champion. You don't want to.
Okay. So I need 53. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do 2 more runs. I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be back. Oh, that was only long enough to do one run? Oh, brother.
Always just upgrade champions of one rarity because you'll have finite amounts of books, skill tomes for each rarity. So Haiku is going to be tremendous. Increased speed, kill turn meters, and decreased turn meter. Very good control champion, and she'll be a staple of your teams for a long, long time. Tip number 23 is the basics of speed tuning in arena or a dungeon team. Basically, we want to have our speed booster go first. So our buffer or our speed booster on our team, what they're going to do is increase turn meter of all allies, in this case by 30%. That's going to allow the rest of the team to kind of catch up to that fastest champion. Next up, you want either a control or a debuffer champion. So in this case, it's going to be Madame Sarah. She's going to come in and debuff the enemy team with decreased defense, decreased attack. War Maiden would be another example of a champion that would fill this role. A speed booster would be an example of, well, Haikatoon. So two of the champions that we just spoke about. And then the last champion will be your nuker. So your nuker can actually be the slowest on your team. In this case, I have Trunda, and she is the slowest on this particular team. So it doesn't make any sense, whether it's a dungeon or whether it's the arena, to have your nuker going before your debuffer. They're not going to take advantage of that decreased defense on the enemies, thus really wasting a valuable part of your team. A valuable component of your team is really a staple of most dungeon teams in the game. Tip number 24, guys, is prioritizing critical rate and critical damage over basically anything else for an attacker, especially for the arena. Now, we have Trunda. This is a late game build, guys, but I want to be very clear on this. I see so many new players in Raid Shadow Legends not putting 100% or more. You don't get any extra benefit after 100%, but make sure you're hitting that 100% on the crit rate. That is really, really important. So for any nuker, for any damage dealer, off of sheer damage, not like poisons and stuff like that, those are damage from debuffs, but damage from straight out AoE attacks, just nuking damage, we want to have 100% crit rate.
It's really hard to get 100% crit rate, but do your best. Like, when your account develops, you're going to go from 90%, 95%, 97%. Eventually, you'll be able to get 100% on most of your usable, the champions that you really use. But, you don't have the gear when you start the game. You do your best to get your crit rate to 100%, but you also do your best to get your speed to a certain level and your crit damage to a certain level and your attack stat or defense stat or HP stat to a certain level and your accuracy. There's so many stats that you need. Do your best to get to 100, but early on, you're not going to be able to get to 100 on everything and get all the other things that you need. But in the end, you want to get closer and closer and closer till you can get to 100 on your champions. But only on champions that need crit rate. If it's a bomb champion, chances are you're not worried about the crit rate or the crit damage. You're worried about the attack and the accuracy. So you've got to learn what your champion actually needs. There are a lot of champions that don't need crit rate for any reason. Find out who needs crit rate and get those ones as close to 100% as possible.
On crit damage and percentage. A big reminder, though, is on attack percentage, you don't have to overdo it. Don't be afraid to go defense percentage or HP percentage on the chest or on accessories on your nuker, because what good is a dead nuker? You'd rather have your champions actually be alive, be able to take a hit or two, versus just having them die, right? So after around 6,000 attack, you're better off investing a lot more into critical damage. That will make a bigger impact on the overall damage of your nuker.
If you have any champion with 6,000 attack, you already know what you're doing. Because it's really hard to get 6,000 attack and 100% crit rate and 312% crit damage. Okay. Please tell me I'm done running Fire Knight. Ran it hours and hours and hours today just so I could be done. I know that a lot of people will try to drag out each of these tournaments for the full allotment, but then they forget to finish it up and they miss one of their rares and then they can't do their fusion. So I try to save up my gems during the 2 weeks that there is no fusion, and then I just use them when I need them during the fusion. I don't love being wasteful like this, but I prepare for it so that I don't have to worry about it. And then as soon as I get that rare, the smart thing to do, don't always remember, but lock it and ascend it. And what did I do with the other one? Okay, so now I've got one epic done, and I've got two rares ascended but not leveled. Sent to my reserve vault. Let's get that over there. So I've got my epic, and I've got two rares, so I've got 10 rares to go. And I can close that. All right. So now I don't have to worry about Fire Knight anymore. Let's go ahead and run our Faction Wars team. Okay, so this is my Undead Hordes team. I've got Morrigan. I've got Seeker and Anax from my Clan Boss team. We got Ultimate Death Knight. And I've got Husk. I don't think that Husk or Anax are particularly great for this, but that's what I have in Undead Hordes. Let me make sure I don't have anything else decent to add. No, I've got Dark Elhane, who I've never been able to build very well. And I got Frozen Banshee, who is also not very good for this. I'd really love to have, a better AoE nuker, better than Dark Elhane, but this is what I have. So we'll go ahead and run this. And it takes a couple minutes. Okay, that was a pretty slow run, but it got the job done. Now we'll go ahead and take a look at my Shadowkin team. I always run stage 20 if I can on just about anything. And I'm probably going to replace this guy with Ginbo as soon as Ginbo has any kind of artifacts on him. But that's okay. Good enough for now. We'll go ahead and run this and see what kind of time we can get. Okay. Those were not the best times, but you just click on autoplay and look the other way. Who cares? All right. So, one thing I noticed is that where is he? Where is he? Is he in the vault? There he is. We could not find Corrado. Uh, I have really wanted to get rid of Lightning Cage. He's got plus 500 attack. It's not terrible. But I think he'd do better with Soul Reap. Wait, I didn't get a reset? I thought you were supposed to have a free reset on blessings now. And it costs more if you go to a different set? That's insane. But why is there no reset of the blessings? I need I need to choose some blessings though. Um, okay, I'm gonna add Smite to Helicath. Um, Rule, I'm gonna add Soul Reap. Not that I use Rule for anything right now. Wait. Level. Okay. Um, Mighty Uko. Not really. Hmm, maybe. Probably. I'm gonna try that. What else we got? We got Ultimate Death Knight. Oh, he's got masteries to do. Dark Kale. Okay. Um, no, no. Okay, I'll probably go with cruelty. Uh, mastery. Okay, Genbo. Yeah. Okay. And okay, let's get some good perception gear. We'll go with boots, and we'll try to get some accuracy on those boots. Garbage. Nope. Not really what I'm looking for. Nope. Attack. Those had only been speed. Accuracy, resistance, and defense. If only that defense was replaced with speed, I might not junk it. Don't need a lot of 5-star pieces on my account anymore. All right, how about Fatal? We could use some gauntlets with crit rate. Nope. Nope. Tried and we failed. Okay. So I've done everything I can for the fusion. Oh, well, I don't think we have anything coming up for a few days now. I've got the first Dungeon Divers, the Ice Golem, the Artifact, Champ Chase, Classic Arena, and Fire Knight. So I have to wait 3 days for the Spider Tournament. And then another day for Champ Chase, another day for Arena and Summon Rush. So there's not a lot to do for the next few days, which means I'm going to be running a lot of Minotaur. Try to get some masteries on my Marishka and Thea. So let's try to finish up Ash's video before we go. Ooh, we're only halfway done.
Just because they're legendary or epic. So, as I mentioned earlier, I kind of alluded to this.
I always upgrade legendaries. They don't always have to be first, but if they ever get buffed, even if you think they stink, you're going to want them right away. So if you have other champions that you want to use right away, go ahead and build those. But if you've got a champ training going on and you have a legendary, well, you do what you want, but I always build them.
So difficult to find in this game. If you make
Most legendaries are usable without booking them. They aren't as good. They might not be end game, but you can use them.
decision to farm up, say, 2 or 3 or 4 legendaries, especially in the early game, all the way to 6 stars. You invest all this energy and time and all these chickens, whatever you're using to upgrade all these legendaries. I can guarantee you're not going to have enough books to actually get full, impact of these legendaries. So A, either go after a legendary champion that you know you can get a lot of utility out of, even without fully booking them, or B, skip or hold on the legendary and rather focus on a champion like an epic or a rare champion that you know you can get utility out of, you know you can get value out of this champion, but it's going to be a lot easier. It's going to be less expensive to ascend to the champion, and of course, those books are going to be easier to come by for lesser rarities. So also, is basically allow your resources to help dictate who you want to upgrade next. Just don't always go for the highest rare. Tip number 26. Skill tomes, books, they're not even always necessary. Here's a cult brawler. We don't need skill tomes on a cult brawler in order to get a lot of utility out of this champion, a lot of which is coming out of his passive, right? So read the skills. Usually an extra turn reduction on a skill is going to be valuable. You're going to want to use your books. Usually taking a debuff from say 50 or 75% to land to 100 is going to be very valuable. But sometimes even a nuker, even a champion.
Booking in this game 95% of the time is super simple. If you use a rare, you're going to get enough books that you can book them. If they're a farmable rare, you can farm and book them that way. If it's an epic, you'll get enough books playing this game consistently to book any decent epic that you're going to actually use. Just start with the ones that are important, because books help almost every champion. Unless it's a champion like a lure, where you're just trying to get their A1 going on Fire Night. Most of the time, just book your epic champion that you want to use the most in that order. It'll be fine. When it comes to legendary champions, book the champion that you're going to use the most, that needs it the most. So there are some top champions that you don't really need to book. It's fine. But if you have a great legendary champion that needs books, book it. Just book your favorite champions, the ones that you're going to need. If it's for clan boss, book your clan boss champs. If it's for arena, that's probably next. If it's somebody that you're going to use all the time, book them. If you're just using them for something like faction wars or somewhere where they don't need them, then don't book them. But books are not complicated. Legendary books are hard to come by, but they're not complicated. I've got probably only a fourth or a third of my legendary champions with books in them. It's fine. The ones that don't have them, I don't need that bad most of the time. And the ones that need them, I get over time. I probably book one legendary champion fully per month. And I probably do 2 or 3 epic champions per month on a normal month. It's fine. Don't stress it. If you play the game, you'll get books. Book the champs that you need the most. Don't book a garbage champion. Unless it's rare, then who cares? Like, you'll always get rare books eventually. Not a big deal.
Champion like Ronda, we just looked at on the last tip, I think. If we're just using her as an arena nuker, for example, we don't need this to be a 4-turn instead of a 5-turn. You can get by with a champion like this. Sure, you're using a tiny bit of damage on those books, but again, skill tones are so valuable. You don't need to rebook every champion. Tip 27 is, how do you decide which champion to invest in next then? How do you decide? Well, the 4 factors, guys. I said there was 3 for a long time. Now I'm saying there's 4, and I just talked about one of them. It's the resources that you have. If you have a bunch of skill tomes, for epic champions, may as well just go with an epic if things are very, very close otherwise between 2 champions, say, right? Or if you have 3 legendaries you want to upgrade, maybe pause on one of them and invest in a epic or a rare instead, because of how much resources, or how resource intensive, I should say, those champions are, right? The other factors are going to be endgame viability. Am I going to be using this champion in the end game? Are they going to be good, or is this going to last me, a month or 2? If so, you might want to pause or only take them to level 50. And then, of course, value over replacement, right? How good is the champion champion this champion is going to be replacing on the teams that I'm going to use them for. And then the last is versatility. How many different areas in the game can I use this champion? That obviously is going to inform your decision of who to invest in next. Tip number 28 is tips for Dragon's Lair. Dragon's Lair is a pretty basic dungeon, but poison is amazing. So poison champions, there's a bunch of them in the game. We talked about Kale. And then obviously champions that have instant activations, like Xavier, like Eleanor. I mean, they're hard to come by, but they're incredibly valuable. Other than that, guys, just stacking your team up with a bunch of poisons. The dragon should not pose any problems to you. It's just a matter of clearing the waves in front of the dragon. Tip number 29 is tips for Ice Golem's Peak. So Ice Golem's Peak, you got to be careful. A ton of damage, a bunch of enemy max HP champions, for example, on a team, you're going to wipe against the Ice Golem. Now, it's nice to have a deny revival on the two minions, because if they're alive, he'll ignore defense and do a lot more damage to you. But slow and steady usually wins the race against the Ice Golem. If you're having trouble with just kind of moderate damage dealers versus just absolute nukers, well, go ahead and pull back even a little bit more, because what's most important is actually clearing these levels and not wasting your energy. Rather than having like a 75% win rate, you'll be throwing away a lot of energy in return for, just a little bit of time saved, because you'll be throwing away the ones that don't actually end in a victory, right? Furthermore, you can go with shields. A champion like Miscreated Monster is super, super valuable in a dungeon like Ice Golem's Peak. Ally protect champions as well. Just make sure you can keep them alive. Maybe run a reviver. Champions like Scylla Drakes, great healers for Ice Golem, because you're going to be taking a lot of damage. Tip number 30 is tips for Spider's Den. So Spider's Den, guys, up until, I don't know, around stage 16, maybe even stage 20, depending on your artifacts and your champions, you can get by with brute force. Enemy max HP champions like Coldheart, champions like Royal Guard, champions like Armor Guard are going to be really, really good there. But stages 20 through 25, maybe even stages like 18 through 25, again, depending on your gear, you're going to want to kind of shift to an HP burn strategy. Champions like Mordecai, Attack the Wenderin, and maybe even go with some CC. Go with a stun champion so those burns can keep ticking on.
You can enemy max HP up to 20. So if you have Royal Guard, if you have Cold Heart, if you got multiples, just smash through 20. Once you get to 21, you're going to need an HP burner. And if you're not lucky like I was unlucky, just wait until you get Akoth from Doom Tower. Try to get Akoth as quickly as you can, because he's amazing.
On the Mother Spider. So be on the lookout for HP burn champions. They're going to be your best friends when we talk about the later stages of Spider's Den. Tip number 31 is tips for, not Dragon's Lair, but Fire Knight's Castle. So Fire Knight's Castle, we're looking for multi-hit A1 abilities. Champions like Coldheart with 4 hits on her A1, so strong. Champions like Allure with turn meter control on her A1 ability. Champions like Apothecary with triple hits on his A1 as well are all going to be great for this type of campaign. Go ahead and pick up Muckstalker, previously an unused champion. Nothing crazy special.
Okay, just watch Muckstalker videos if you need them for the Sand Devil. That's what I use.
Champions, we've talked about a lot of them already, but there's a bunch more. Even your daily login rewards, right? You're getting Visix, you're getting Rush, you're getting Silver Drake, Stings, Hayflower, and maybe not Lordly Legionnaire, but champions like Haikachun that we spoke about earlier too. All these champions are tremendous, and there's a lot more that we're going to talk about in the rest of the tips here too. You do not need, especially to spend money to get your hands on fusions and fragment summons. If you want to go for them, save your resources in advance, make it easier on yourself. Take a look.
You don't need to spend money in this game unless you're trying to whale out. If you want to win Platinum Arena, go ahead and spend $100,000 on the game. You're kind of weird for that, but I can't tell you what to do. But you really don't need to spend money on this game. You need to learn how to save your resources in this game. It's way more valuable than spending money in the game, because you can spend money and waste it. Now, you can spend money wisely in the game and make it a little bit easier on yourself, but if you don't learn how to save your resources, it's going to be a waste.
Look at the fusion calendar, plan in advance, but do not feel pressured to ever have to spend or go all in for any fusion or fragment champion in this game ever.
I'm gonna have to go ahead and sort of disagree with you there.
Tip number 34, to that point, guys, be mindful of special events and tournaments that are kind of sneakily placed by Plarium sometimes to get you to spend your resources right before a big event that you'll want to take part in. And they do that a lot. It's very sneaky, especially with shard events. Oftentimes, they'll give us a really enticing 10 times champion event right before a fusion where we're going to have to pull our shards anyway. It's sneaky, it's not nice, but be on the lookout. Another reason to save your resources and to kind of have a heads up over on the schedule what is to come, right? And make sure that you plan accordingly. Don't burn all your resources before a big event that you're going to need all your resources take place. Tip number 35, if you're having difficulty farming your Great Hall, an easy strategy that you should be employing is going to the arena, going to your arena defense, and removing all these OP champions that you have there, or whoever you have there. Remove them, put one food champion, be kind to others, give them a nice gimme. Don't put some random beast with stone skin in there, right? Put a level 1 whatever in there. You're going to make an easy victory for everybody who's attacking you. So, like this guy, this baby dude, right? He's just running a kale there. It's going to be a nice, easy victory for yours truly. I will take it, and I'm going to be dropping trophies. That way I can kind of tread water in a certain area that's comfortable for me to pick up easy victories in the arena. When we think of the arena, we're not, most players, 99% of players, aren't thinking about, ooh, I want to be the best of the baddest and make the top player leaderboard. No, you just want to farm your Great Hall efficiently. And efficiently means going against fairly easy teams for you wherever you are. So find that comfort area and then strategically use that one-man defense strategy to make sure you're not moving up too far to where it's going to be very troublesome to be able to farm all of those medals because every team's going to take you a while or you're going to lose. Speaking of Great Hall, guys, I don't care what you do, but prioritize accuracy first. Accuracy is king again in this game, and you can't upgrade your speed. So go for accuracy. Usually people start out with Magic Affinity accuracy because Magic Affinity is generally seen as the most common for meta champions in the game in terms of the affinities. After that, it doesn't really matter where you go, frankly, because some people tell you resistance, some people crit damage, some people defense. But the last thing you should do is attack, because attack only benefits a small or at least half of the champions in the game. Think about it this way: an attack percentage champion still benefits from defense and HP, whereas an HP damage champion or a defense damage champion does not benefit at all from attack. So I would save attack for last. Tip number 37, guys. We talked about great champs you can get in this game by not having to spend. Well, here's a few more for you guys. It's the power of the Bazaar and Tag Team Arena. It's a reason to play Tag Team Arena, guys, because we can go in here and collect fragments for Drexstar Blood Twin. He's a very, very good champion. You can collect them. They're 360 a pop, and you want to really unlock Drexstar because he's very, very good, especially against a lot of Doom Tower bosses. So he'll help you out a lot on your account. He's also a great burner for Spider, which we spoke about earlier. After that, we have two clan shop champions. So if we go to our clan screen, we go to the clan shop. I mean, two tremendous champions is your Carl the Scourge and Yannicka. They're both great nukers and control champion in Yakarl. He got buffed recently. So these are two more champions that you can just use your clan gold.
Yannicka and Yakarl are okay, but Drexstar is amazing.
And basically farm their fragments and eventually get your hands on really capable endgame champions. Tip number 38, guys. I don't have him on here because I already fused him, but the two of the permanent fusions in this game, Rosin Scarhide and Broadmaw, are actually really solid. Most players should pick up these fusions. Broadmaw received a pretty significant buff. You're going to need him.
I don't use Razin outside of Faction Wars, and I never got Broadmaw. Never bothered. Don't care. He's usable. Wasn't worth the effort to me.
In the late game, there's a Lizardman only epic champion secret room that's very, very difficult without Broadmaw. He's a reviver now. He's got increased crit rate,
I'll
increased
probably
speed.
pull him
He's a
eventually.
solid champion. Not the best in the world. Never, ever, ever buy artifacts from the
Unless you're a whale or a kraken. Then buying gear in the shop makes absolute sense. I'll never do it.
shop, guys. Do not do it. Don't buy artifacts. Don't buy accessories. You can farm this stuff. You can partake in tournaments, and you can get these artifacts, and you don't know what the substats are going to be before you buy them. It's a total gamble. It's a total crapshoot. They're overpriced. do not buy artifacts and accessories. I guess the only, and I mean the only exception I would say, if you're Jeff Bezos watching this video, you don't care, go for it. Or if it's your very first champion and you just can't beat Spider and you see some decent accessories for say,
No. Only spend on gear if you're a Kraken. If you're trying to win platinum. If you're not pushing for Plat Arena, don't be spending that kind of money on that. You'll get good enough gear over time.
A Dark Elf that you put on Kale, maybe consider it there, but that's really the only exception to that rule, in my opinion. Tip number 40 is buy ancient shards in the market. Even buy mystery shards in the market. Shards are great value in the market. Not only that, but you also complete your daily quest, purchase an item in the market, and once you claim it, you get 5 more arena tokens, some silver as well. So definitely buy mystery shards and especially ancient shards. You're limited to, I think, 4 or 5 a month. So just be careful and keep an eye out every day because ancient shards, again, are incredible value for 200k silver. Tip number 41, it's an old school one, but upgrade your gem mine, guys. Upgrading your gem mine always pays off if you play this game for a decent amount of time. So I guess I'll rephrase. Upgrade your gem mine if you think you're going to be playing Raid Shadow Legends for another year or so, because it is going to pay quite the dividends in terms of your overall gem return in the long run. Tip number 42 is the easiest way to farm masteries for your champions, guys. It's obviously in Minotaur's Labyrinth, and if you don't want to pay 800 gems to max out your masteries for a champion, the easiest way is to go to get to stage 15. It's not that difficult to do, and then there's plenty of champions. You can just YouTube search it or Google it. There's so many champions. One of my favorites is actually an uncommon champion in lifesteal gear. If you put them in lifesteal and or regen, depending on the champion, you can easily farm even stage 15 with one champion. So let's just say I wanted to go ahead and get masteries on Manaya. I would pair the champion that I want to farm scrolls on with my miniature farmer, and then all the scrolls are going to go to that one champion. Tip number 43, guys, is to use all your spots when farming experience in campaign. It's really important. Farming experience is, well, it's really expensive. So whether you're farming champions just to level them up that you want to build and use, or whether you're just farming food, make sure you're using all 4 slots because the total amount of HP, or excuse me, experience, let's just say they're getting 1,000 experience here, it is going to be divided 4 ways in all of these spots, right? So Fellhound, who's already maxed out, is going to be eating 25% of all that experience. If I'm only farming 2 champions along with my campaign farmer, he's going to be eating up 33% of that experience, basically wasting it. If I'm only farming 1, it's going to be a 50-50 split. I'm going to be wasting 50% of my experience, thus wasting energy. So always use all 4 of your spots when you're farming either food or champions that you want to upgrade. Tip number 44 is experience farming doesn't stop in campaign. This is stage 25 of Dragon, and I'm lucky to have Nishak, a Vermin Lord, who can actually solo. So whether it took me 3 champions, 4 champions, 2 champions, or 1 to beat a dungeon, you're better off, especially if you're farming like overnight, not wasting your energy on a bunch of campaign farms and dragon farms, because it doesn't matter if it's taking you 2 minutes or 6 minutes because you're sleeping or you're not with your device or by your computer. So it doesn't really matter. So you're better off getting experience for champions that you want to upgrade anyway. Make a difference of every decision that you're making, every move that you're making. Correct your mistakes until you have everything right. Dark Hill, for example, against the boss, I only want him instant activating poisons. Tier list, just visit the website, take my word for it, what artifacts to put on which champion, etc. Silver, all free stuff for a new account, and I will have without having to waste your energy. She just spoke about it is Shield Guard. He is a barbarian. Legendary, so I'm using against Hydra Clan boss, really any boss, because it does so much damage, that smite debuff. But on top of that, Polymorph is amazing inside the arena. Go, especially rare champions, go with.
All right. Not bad, Ash. Not bad. I'm going to call it a wrap for the night. So, we've got our fusion going pretty well. I'm going to be working on some masteries for Marishka and Thea the Tomb Angel. And we'll call it a weekend. Check you out next time.